everyone. I'm Karen Foley, the host of Authors Night, and our guest is Mark St. Juste and his book, My Neighborhood.
Yes.
Now, it's a children's book.
Yes, it is, Karen. Yes, it is.
I
mean, adults can read it as well, but it's more applicable towards kids.
Well, actually, it has important messages that someone of all ages would enjoy reading.
I hope so.
That
was the objective.
Well, now, what is your background? Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Boynton Beach, Florida. Grew up there. My mother was divorced, so I had a bit of a chance. Did middle school in Chicago, Illinois, 5th grade in Connecticut, 4th grade here in Los Angeles with my uncle, but from pretty much 8th grade through college was in the state of Florida, in Boynton Beach, and then Florida State for college in Tallahassee, Florida.
Why did you move here?
Los Angeles, media. I've been in entertainment and media. That's what I majored in, communications, emphasis in television and film production. So after college, it was come to the belly of the beast, New York or Los Angeles.
And you chose Los Angeles.
Much better weather here, yes.
Much better
weather here, yes.
But you're a former school teacher.
Yes, I taught school for 2 years in Deerfield Park Elementary in Broward County, right after I got out of college. So I needed a job at that time. I didn't major in education, but they had an initiative to bring male role models into the school system. So I needed a job at the time, and I've always done well with kids. And that's actually where a lot of the inspiration for the Get Me Meet program and actually the beginning of this book started in the early 90s during the time that I was teaching children.
When did you start writing books?
Wow. Well, this is my first book that
I've
authored.
Your
but
debut?
But I've been writing poems, which My Neighborhood, as you notice, it's kind of like the Dr. Seuss, more like a poem actually that was written. But I've been writing poems and rhymes since I was 13 years old. It's been quite some time.
Do you live here in the Valley?
Yes, I do.
I know you have an office in Calabasas.
I have an office in Calabasas, live off Las Virgenes Road.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, what was your inspiration
for My Neighborhood? My Neighborhood came about, it was a poem that I wrote because I've done some film production. I shot an independent documentary on crump dancing years ago.
Crump dancing?
Crump dancing in 2000. It's kind of what breakdancing was, I think, to our generation in the early 80s, this form of dancing they call crump. It's just the embodiment of movement that kids have. Today you'll see it in a lot of videos from Christina Aguilera to Missy Elliott and other pop artists. But we did a documentary on crump dancing, and one day I had to go down into the South Central, South LA, which is termed South LA today, area to go talk to some retailers that were carrying the video for me, our DVD. And I was thinking about, oh my gosh, it's getting late. And at times, because of certain gang activities in South LA, you have to be cognizant of what colors I wear there at certain times of time. Wearing all red or all dead or all blue, and you could be
either one.
Yeah, you could be confused of being affiliated with the wrong group, even if you're not affiliated with either group. So anyway, it's just like, oh my gosh, got to go down into the hood, And it was kind of more of I was thinking on a more negative connotation standpoint of the inner city. I said, well, and you hear it a lot of times when people, do grow up in the inner city, oh my gosh, I just need to get out of the neighborhood. I can't wait till I make enough money, get a good job to move to the suburbs, And I looked at, well, the neighborhood, inner cities really aren't all that bad.
No, I grew up in this city.
Right, exactly. So, and it's just like, but many times we look at, some people, we continue to look at the inner city from a negative connotation, the bad things in the hood. And it's like, until we really change our perspective, our paradigm, we need to shift the focus on, as opposed to the 2-3% people that are causing the crime rate to be higher than in Beverly Hills there. We need to focus on the 97 or 98% of law-abiding citizens raising their families, doing the right thing. And that's where the inspiration came to start writing. Contrary to most news reports, My Neighborhood's not all bad, but most of the time you see it on TV, it's a report on something sad. I live here and I know the truth, and for that I'm very glad. Take, for instance, the fact that most of my friends have a loving mom and dad, blah, 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 blah. And that's where the inspiration to write My Neighborhood started. So I know that's a mouthful, but so.
Did you take a long time to write, or did it just come pretty easily to you?
Rather easily, in about one evening, early morning. That's yeah, I'd say that's a gift I've been given, by some power that be here. Not to get religious or and so forth, but yeah, I've just had a gift to be able to give me any subject matter. I can write a poem on it pretty
You'd
readily.
make a good
Easily.
rapper.
Yeah,
I mean, they come
I've
come up with
moonlighted. I've
like
moonlighted in
that.
that. I've moonlighted in that area before. I've done actually. That's where the poems were rhymes and songs initially. That's I was a rapper in the early.
Were you really?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
I started a
wow.
record label when I was a sophomore at Florida State University. Almost cost me my education because I almost failed out of school. To my mother's credit, my ventures in music did not pan out early on, so I went back, finished my degree, and here I am today.
How about the illustrations? Who did you get to do the illustrations? They're beautiful.
Yeah, the initial children, the Get Me Me kids, I had this idea for this multicultural cast of characters, which are the Get Me Me kids, which is narrated. Tina Fordnami is one of those kids who actually I place as the character that narrates them. So Laren DeJeanette, he's an artist. He's worked for Disney, among other studios here in Southern California for years. He initially drew the 7 Get Me Me kids and their nemesis, Cyrus Kamel, when my youngest son was born, Michael. He's 16 now, but around 1999. And then Laren didn't have time to illustrate the book. The only reason I'm going this long way is
No,
because
that's
Michael,
fine.
yeah, Michael Horowitz, he's actually another animator who's worked for Disney and other studios here, but Michael actually took the characters that Laren designed originally, and then he fleshed out the rest of the book, which has a multitude of characters from bakers to other people throughout the book. But that's really the work of Michael, but initially
No, I really
Laren.
enjoyed
Yeah,
that too.
yeah.
The stories that you had and the rhymes that you have. Any from your experiences growing up or as a teacher?
That are in my neighborhood
Yeah.
specifically? Yes, well, absolutely. That's if you look at the book and the characters, it's very multicultural, diverse, and it's a kaleidoscope of all nationalities, peoples, and backgrounds, which is, I guess, from moving around the country prior to middle school, and then all my international travel, which I've done in business. Past few years, my mother raised me not to see the pigmentation of one's skin as being so polarizing. So to look at what unifies us as people, which is we're 99% the same. This pigmentation shouldn't make, oh, she's white, he's black, and he's Hispanic. That's our pigment. That doesn't really the human experience. It's more common. Is pretty much universal throughout the world, regardless of the skin. We're all working to hopefully put our kids in better schools, get better jobs, and make a better future for our offspring. And that you can find that being done around the planet, no matter what color people are. So that's more or less, I'd like to see more of a unified world where pigmentation and race and so forth doesn't cause us to be so far apart, where we understand we're on one planet, one people together.
But the kids are very into what pigment you have. When I was a substitute teacher, I would go to the schools and they said, "What color are you, Foley?"
What color are you, Foley? They'd call you Foley? How disrespectful.
That's okay.
Not even Miss Foley?
That's all right.
Right.
I looked down at whatever I was wearing. One particular day I was wearing kind of a peachy sweater. I said, "I'm peach."
Bingo.
Foley says she's peach. Okay.
But
I know.
here's the thing, Karen. What in middle school? Okay, number one, kids. I wouldn't even teach
Middle
them.
school, high school.
Okay, but if you take some infants of all colors, you put them together in a room, they will play with one another.
Yes.
Unbeknownst, color and racism is taught, and we're either taught to love one another and not look at the skin differences as being so polarizing as I was with my mother, or we're taught, hey, that boy's white and she's black and you know how those people do. We're taught these things, unfortunately, and it's miseducation.
And it goes beyond just the skin color. It goes into religion.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we need more, and that's where understanding, having a book where I think all characters are inclusive. We see people of different colors mixing together, playing together, working together. It's important for us to, I believe in everything in this world begins as thought. We're able to fly across this continent in 5 hours on a jet because the Wright brothers continually said, hey, we're going to make this bird fly. Today, we're able to. So much in the same way, like Martin Luther King, he had a dream to see, one day where we all can stand together. I believe part of making that dream happen is making sure kids have images of that dream, of what it should look like, and that's us all working together, regardless of skin color. And eventually, if you keep that on the forefront of children's mind, especially in their psychological formative years, I think it makes a huge difference in how they act and behave when they're in middle school. So hopefully the next generation of kids won't ask you, what color are you? They'll be more interested in who you are as opposed to what color you are. At least that's my dream.
It's a good one. Where do you get the get me from?
Get me. It's a term that we had it on the I walked on the football team at Florida State, but they used to reference get me. I'm going to get me, which is more like take care of your area, take care of your job on the field. It was something that was self-born. So when I got into middle school, when I started teaching elementary school in the early 90s, I noticed a lot of my kids didn't have a lot of self-esteem. Oh, Mr. Saint, we're the dumb class, and blah, blah, blah. I was just like, wow, I have to help these kids really. These kids have to get me. You have to. And they weren't getting necessarily the love, support, or confidence wasn't being inbred from them at home or through parents where it should be. So I couldn't tell them, well, you should get that at home and hope everything goes right. I was like, you know what, let me figure out a way. And I came up with this 7-sentence mantra, basically to ensure that my kids every morning, 180 days of the school year, they were going to make sure that they said, if no one else said, Karen, your hair looks lovely, you were going to make sure my kids said it to themselves. My hair looks lovely. I look good. I am a winner. So it was positive affirmations, but I believe if kids do that, then they can help make sure that they put love into themselves, even if they're lacking a source from their home or caregiver to institute love in them. Because if you don't love yourself, there's no way you can love your neighbor.
Interesting, because another kid at school, once in high school, said, why are people racist? What causes them? I said, they're not happy. If you're happy with yourself, you can be happy with other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you're happy, if you love yourself, then you have capacity to love somebody else. You can't love thy neighbor is a great concept, but you can't give what you don't have. If you have $0 in your pocket, no matter how much you'd like, you'll never be able to give me $1 here. And the same thing with love. If you have zero capacity of love for yourself in your heart, love for yourself, it's impossible for you to pour out love to another person. So if we get kids at an early enough age to understand, get me, make sure you love and take care of yourself. And that's why they're all interconnected, because it's important we love and take care of ourselves so we can love and take care of others. We can't give what we don't have in this world. So it's for me, this is my life's mission, and part of the Get Me product is, this is the first book from the Get Me brand, My Neighborhood.
Well, we'll continue in just a moment. We're taking a quick break, so stick with us, folks. Author's Night, Mark St. Juste, My Neighborhood.
To stop pretending we have plenty of water. Los Angeles is in a drought, but there are ways you can help. Replacing lawns with rain gardens and California-friendly plants is just one of many solutions. For more info on conserving water and saving energy, please visit LADWP and the Bay Foundation online.
We're back to Author's Night and the book, My Neighborhood, for children of all ages.
Absolutely, yes.
Now, you mentioned in your book, you made reference to state what we see is what we will be.
Right.
Explain that concept.
It's visualization in life. I mean, from athletes to politicians, and anybody who's been successful in their career can tell you about the power of visualization. Things that we keep, everything in this world, I believe, begins as thought. And I made reference to this with the Wright brothers and planes flying today. But it takes whatever you concentrate on and keep at the forefront of your mind eventually will begin to manifest its way into reality. Be that fears and negativity and hate-driven agendas, or love-driven, or, you know, goals that you may have. Write down your goals, they always tell you. Also repeat them verbally and keep them on the forefront of your mind. Visualization is key to attracting things into your life that you wish. So what we see is
have
what
you
will
met
be.
your goals, your own goals?
I'm living right now. To be doing what I'm doing right now is part of living my dream, absolutely. If my life ended today, it's been a great ride. Haven't achieved all the metrics that I wish to. I still have plenty of other goals, but yes, for the most part, it's that's something I can swear by and tell you firsthand.
And that's a happy way to live.
Yes, it's not bad. I'm pretty well adjusted, I think. I feel pretty good about life.
So what age group did you set out to have this
I would
reference?
I would love people to read that to their child when they're still in their mother's womb, for instance. Mothers, they tell you to read to your children, which I think it's
Play
applicable
music.
information.
Sing
Yeah,
to them.
music. And so from birth through, you know, I'd say 5th grade is applicable. The message in there is really could be applicable towards anybody. What we see is what will be. Some people are not even aware of the power of visualization, of the, you know, importance to write down their goals and so forth. So the information is applicable to a wide audience, but really with the kids' illustration, I don't know about too many kids in middle school maybe. Hey, this is great, this is cool, you know, best read I've had. You know, they're in the chapter books by then. So really it's, I would say, from birth to most of elementary school.
So what really is your goal for people to take away from this book when they finish reading? What would you like to leave them with?
What we see is what will be. That we have the power to change our future, our world. And if we look at our world as being all-inclusive, we look at our world as being a place of love for one another, of all people, then when a critical mass of people really begin to focus on that positive value and aspect, it's going to create a positive change within our world. The world's already more good than bad. You know, don't let the atrocities that are going on, you know, recently in Europe and throughout America fool us into believing that, you know, we're going to hell in a handbasket. 90% of the world is still good, and good things are happening in most communities. But, you know, the news, unfortunately, good news doesn't always sell advertising for news stations, for media. I'm not blaming the media, but it's just, it's not hearing about, you say 20 kids graduated and are valedictorians all going to Ivy League schools on the front of Calabasas newspaper here, or the LA Times. Okay, hey, that's great news. We can say 1 kid shoots 2 teachers at Calabasas High. That'll be coming off the press. You won't be able to keep those copies at newsstands. Why is that? Just, you know, it's our human nature, unfortunately. Even to kind of inflame. It's like rubbernecking down the 101. Oh my gosh. You know, if something good happens, it doesn't attract our attention. But it's unfortunately part of human nature. We somehow gravitate towards the negative sometimes.
Every time I pick up the New York Times, every time I pick up the LA Times, pick up Time Magazine, hear it on the radio, see what programs are being presented on TV.
Right.
It leaves me with a very, very unhappy, despairing feeling. And it's hard to climb out of that.
Well, that's why we have to, you know, we're so conscious, Karen, this is something that we're so conscious about what we eat today. You know, we met at Ralph's and sitting there trying to find what's low fat, no fat, you know, low cholesterol.
I was in from the ice cream section.
Oh, you're getting ice cream.
Yeah.
Hey, well, but you know, they actually say saturated fats are actually good for you in some. But anyway, but we're so conscious about our physical diet that we eat with our mouth. But yet we somehow don't think about the mental diet of what we're digesting with our eyes, with our ears, with our mind. Me, I'm conscious of that because I know, given a diet.
You're in the media, you're in the business.
Yeah, but if I read all the negative news in the New York Times, and Wall Street Journal and so forth, of course, it's going to impact your emotions. So I try to monitor, it's not to close my eyes to the world, but monitor the diet, that you take in. You can't take in every single negative story to heart because, yes, the atrocity that happened in Nice, 2 weeks ago, that was horrible. But I got to focus on, there's a lot of good things that were happening in France that week, Thank goodness they stopped them. Thank goodness, so it's just to be conscious of what you're consuming with your mind, I think is important because otherwise, I could get depressed myself. I don't get depressed much, but no, it's sad news. So, but it's to be aware that that sad news is not all the news in the world or the community or that country. And there's a lot of good news that simply isn't being reported. It doesn't take away from the losses of those who've lost loved ones in these tragedies, but, and I'm not just saying it's not important to publicize that, but it's just for balance purposes. Yes, you lost a lot of people there, but there's a lot of babies born, healthy that day as well. So.
What role did your own children play in your writing of this book?
Well, just from a standpoint of love and standpoint of loving my kids and the inspiration. Also, one of the characters in there, because my wife, she passed away several years ago, but she's woven the character Miss Janice, who shows up at the middle school to talk to the kids. It's actually, which Michael Horitz, he did a good job. I don't mean to bring up such a sad, morbid subject, but her character was designed. It was drawn after pictures of my late wife and my children's mother. So that was so there's a lot of personal inspiration there. Janice had several books that were written, which we still need to illustrate and have published herself. So she was a huge, monumental part in my life and our kids' life. So she's now immortalized in the book in that aspect. So.
And at the beginning of the book, you took a stance that in some neighborhoods, the reporters come only when there is a police chase.
Yes.
Why do you think this is?
Well, it's, as I mentioned before, it's not much news to hear about the kids at Dorsey High School in South LA who, are getting a full ride scholarship to Harvard or Princeton. It's a much more juicy story when you hear about the kid who shot 2 other kids there. That's news. Kids are going to Princeton, doing what they're supposed to. It's not going to move papers. It's not going to get eyeballs, unfortunately. And we have to ask ourselves as human nature, why is that? Why don't we want to tune into a story about the valedictorian? Why is the story about the kid shooting somebody so much more, ooh, what? Can you believe this? My gosh, tell Bob. You're getting Twitter feeds, etc. on the negative.
People are voyeurs. They like to see into other people's lives, and this kind of maybe makes them feel better about their own lives.
Could be it. I guess oh my gosh, well, I guess things really aren't that bad here, so I guess that's a good perspective. Yeah. So.
Now, one of the Get Mimi kids, yes. Tina Fordami,
yes, Fordami,
narrates the story from her point of view.
Right. Why
did you choose Tina's voice as the narrator?
Oh, well, because all the Get Mimi kids have different talents and so forth. And Tina, she aspires to be the next Barbara Walters / Oprah Winfrey journalist, so she was the appropriate, she's the only journalist out of the kids, so as a journalist, I guess she should be the one broadcasting the story.
And there's a lot of characters that seem to break a general gender stereotype.
Yeah, it's a good thing, I think. We shouldn't stereotype people because like the best athlete of the Get Me kids is actually Kathy Graninsky. So, and she can beat any of the boys playing basketball and so forth. But it's good that that's a girl and not necessarily a boy, because we always think the best athlete's a guy, you know. So let's open up the door. It's so kids can dream. You know, I think they'll have more latitude for their dreams to think of their possibilities, as opposed to pigeonholing them and thinking, well, that's what an athlete has to look like this, and I'm not that, so I can't be.
And you dedicate your book to your mother.
Right, yes.
Was she a big moving force in your life?
Absolutely, because without her, you know, she's probably the main person, the human being that gave me the capacity to love that I have, which I think is so important, to get me. But I had, some kids don't have great parents, you know.
No,
luckily I had one, and she was amazing. She's the person of why I don't see, when I see people, I don't see color first, you know. It's just, a lot of that has, my godmother, which my mother worked for my godmother, so, and my godmother was white. So when I came home from the hospital, actually, you know, it was either my godmother holding me or my mother holding me. So from my birth, you know, I've had people of two different races holding and loving me, you know. And so that's why I wonder when I tell people I don't really see people as color, but that obviously, that had a huge impact on me, because it was just someone of different color didn't mean anything, didn't have anything to do with their capacity to love me or me love them. So, and that was, I'm glad for that, but that's, I dedicate to my mother, so.
Did you raise your kids the same way? Have people of all colors and cultures and religions in their lives?
Absolutely. There's never been tolerance for racism or racist rhetoric within my home, you know. And it's important for our kids to realize, you know, just because you're of African descent, a black person can be racist against a white person, vice versa. It's not always one way, you know. Racism,
is an object of that.
Right, it's a two-way street. So no, I've done my best to instill. My children didn't, of course, have the same experiences I had as a child, but nonetheless, it's, you know, I think my wife, you know, she was of black Jamaican and Indian Jamaican descent, of Indian as far as India, like Bombay, India. So, you know, our household has always been all-inclusive of races. It's just not, we didn't tolerate or, you know, speak racist separation rhetoric. We just see people as people, thank goodness. And I hope more of the world can see things that way.
You mentioned college when you
Yes.
talked about job and careers. Do you feel that all children should go to college?
Oh, no, absolutely not. Actually, it just referenced, actually in the book, as you notice, it will reference that you can get a loan to go to college that you can repay. But not just college, any kind of school that can teach you what you want to do, from being a baker, a zoo technician, a computer technician, or even working at the zoo. So it's important that the college isn't for everybody. University, you know, not everyone's going to finish a 4-year university. But I do believe that education in whatever trade or whatever you choose as being your passion is something you should pursue. And some things you can pursue with self-learning. Other things you may need an apprenticeship or have to go to trade school or something. So it's not just college, but any kind of school. But I definitely believe you want to make children, hopefully, give them the tools or mindset of being perpetual learners in life. So.
But as a former school teacher, what are your thoughts on the education of today?
It's the best thing we've got going.
It's the only thing we've got going.
It's the only. No, I mean, well, I think
it is. It's true. You've got to finish high school at least as a start.
Yes, that's.
Or get your GED.
Yeah, well, without it, we'll provide you greater challenges to navigate the marketplace successfully.
And greater opportunities for a life of poverty, unfortunately.
Right, without a high school.
That's one of the things. I forget the 4 or 5 things to make sure that you survive in life. Finish high school. Don't marry right away until I think he's 21 and get a job and things like that. It takes a lot of self-discipline for some of these kids.
Self-discipline and opportunity. Sometimes it's those jobs, Karen. One thing, it's not always, there's a lot of people who want to work sometimes, but their jobs, you know, and even with a high school diploma, I don't think is sufficient. You just have to find,
not.
It's knowing that education, being a learner, I think can help you navigate your way successfully towards a career or towards what you want to do, but you have to be open to learn.
Will there be a continuation of My Neighborhood book?
The next book is actually a derivative, Get Me Me, which is the title of the second book, which it takes the Get Me Me pledge, which is on the back of the book, and actually will expand upon that. This will be a whole series. I hope to continue for quite some time. I hope to be writing books. So.
Yes, and how can people get a hold of that book? I know our library will now carry it.
Right, or Amazon.com. It's on Amazon.com as an ebook, and also iTunes bookstore as far as the digital version, or they can go to getmemekids.com, and the physical copies are available directly through our website as well.
Well, I'd like to culminate with your pledge to give words to our TV audience that they can keep and hold and pay attention to. So if you wouldn't mind reciting the pledge. And as I thank you, and I thank our audience, we'll leave with your words for them.
Well, thank you very much, Karen, and thank you, Calabasas audience here, for having me. The Get Me Me pledge, 7 simple affirmations that only take about a minute to say for kids. I give thanks for living, and I will make the world a better place. I will give love and get love from the entire human race. I will read and listen to acquire knowledge, because I know knowledge is the key that opens up the door for me to this world of prosperity. I'll always respect others, and I will respect myself, because with so many different opinions, it's needed for health and wealth. I'll maintain a positive attitude towards everything and everyone, because fear and negativity never make life fun. There's no such thing as failing, so I can never fail. If I stumble, fall, get a bump or bruise, that's just part of the learning trail. I'll take myself to a higher level and always get me, because I love myself and I love my community. The journey of success is part of me, so I know I will succeed. I'm a winner, oh yes indeed. I get me, I will succeed.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep. You're welcome, Karen.
Thank you, Library, Media Operations Department, and thank you, our audience.
Ciao for now.